Well, what you need to know about me is that I had, before undertaking this church plant, I had planted 5 German-speaking churches. So I knew what it was like to plant churches. I've written books on church planting. I was successful in doing that. The Shell Petroleum Company underwrites a sociological study every second year that talks about 10 cultural subsets in American society, in German society, in many societies of this world. And so they very clearly delineate 10 cultural subsets. And when you look at this sinus milieu study that they produce every 2 years, you discover that most church plants are proficient in 2 areas of these 10 cultural subsets. The traditionalists, those non-Christians who have the same sort of moral framework that we as Christians have, but they're without Christ, and then families. So those 2 milieus or cultural subsets are where most church plants happen. And I thought I would love to go into a milieu, a cultural subset that was unreached. So Frankfurt, having 25% of its professional workers be bankers and lawyers, and it being the second most significant financial city in Europe next to London, I thought this would be a wonderful opportunity. So what we did was we spent a year interviewing these people one-on-one, lawyers and bankers and people working in IT and business. And we would ask them very insightful questions. So we were learning about them. The reason we failed after 3 years of being at this was, I think, first of all, the business culture in Frankfurt. Peter Drucker once wrote, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And that was certainly our experience. People go to Frankfurt to work, and they work from morning till night. And then they live in other areas of the country or Europe. So one of the lawyers that I asked, who had his own law firm, I said, "Do you have any discretionary time?" He said, "Yes, 1 hour a week on a Saturday morning. After I have breakfast, I give myself an hour to read the local paper." That was it. So they go to work at 9 o'clock. They finish about 9 or 10. We started having worship services Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. People said it's too early. Some came to our service and then went back to work. So culture eats strategy for breakfast. We knew of that sentence, but we didn't experience the power of it. And then after we were into the church plant, we began to run up against a lack of momentum. Good people that we had gathered that were believers, that were really missional in their behavior, they were moved by their companies to other places in Europe. And so our team was diminishing. And then also my wife was not on board with me. She said, "These people are so different than what we are. I feel uncomfortable with them. I bless you in your ministry to them, but I don't want to be involved." And that's one of the big principles that I have always harbored, but I didn't have my wife with me this time. So that was a failure. And then my co-planter, a pastor, a young man, seminary grad, said after 3 years that he felt that he needed to go to another location. And when I heard that, I knew I couldn't continue by myself. So those 4 reasons were the big reasons why we failed in Frankfurt to build a church, start a church among urban professionals.